Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Baat Kardi. If you're joining me for the first time, my name is Abbas, your host. Baat Kardi is my podcast where I talk about basically anything and everything. And today's topic is something very personal. It's the idea of how, no matter how much we're doing, we constantly feel like we're losing time, how we're wasting time. So let's get right into it. So I have personally struggled a lot with the idea of just not making the most of my time, especially when I had to take a break, whether it was from life, creating art, studying, whatever it was. Every single instance in my life, as far back as I can recall right now, whenever I had to rest or just take a moment to be, it was riddled with guilt and just this inability to really, the inability to basically just feel okay with what I was doing because I thought I was wasting time. I felt like this was time that was never going to come back. And because I just wasn't pushing through, I was going to lose time and others were going to get ahead. And this is something I feel like a lot of my Pakistani, Indian, I'm sure even some of my Bangladeshi listeners might relate to, which is just this constant pressure from our societies of never wanting to take a break out of fear of being left behind, whether it be in school, whether it be in work, whether it be in personal lives. We never really want to be behind for some reason without ever really trying to take a moment to understand that there's no such thing as behind. We're not competing with each other. We're all doing our own individual things, and coincidentally, we're in similar tracks. That doesn't mean our end destination is going to be the same. That doesn't mean our stops are going to be the same. If we're all on the same train tracks, let's say mine is going to stop at Hyderabad, Sakhar, so on and so forth. Someone's train might not even be stopping at Hyderabad. Their train might be going somewhere completely different, but we're somehow still running parallel until we diverge. So it's really, really important for us to remember and honestly even remind ourselves that yes, it's fine to have healthy competition, but we need to not let it become such a big focus in our lives that we forget to prioritize our own health, taking a break and really just reminding ourselves that life is not a constant rat race. My own personal struggles with wanting to take breaks, wanting to rest, it has resulted in me just being unable to take downtime very often, to a degree where if I just have nothing to do on a day off, my body is still so anxious and is still feeling stressed to such a great degree that I feel like I'm not doing enough. I could be doing more. Just leading up to the recording of this episode, I felt so many times that I could be doing so much more. Why am I not doing so much more? And what's stopping me? Not considering the fact that I've released 5 episodes of this brand new podcast, I have consistently been pushing this on socials and I'm getting a fairly decent response. I forget very regularly to celebrate my wins. I only choose to mourn my losses without really taking a moment to consider that those losses are still attempts that I've made to try something, and it's really sad at times when you realize that there's so much more you could be doing if you just gave yourself the space to exist. We often forget that just because we're here doesn't mean we need to be spending that time doing something or the other constantly. There are times when we can just exist, doing nothing, just the routine, just the mundane, and that is completely okay. Life has a way of sorting itself out. It will always have different twists and turns, but it will always find its way back to the road because that's how it is. It sounds really idealistic and very just fairy tale like, but that's really how it is. Life always has a way of just ending up where it's supposed to. Like you can choose to dislike what it is, that's a completely separate matter. But our decisions and our actions are ultimately what culminate in where we end up and what we see as the road of life, right? And look, I struggle just as much with my own mental health as much as anyone who's probably listening to this, right? I have the unfortunate problem of often comparing myself to others, whether it be friends, whether it be classmates, whether sometimes it even be my own family. And truly, comparison really is the thief of joy because you forget to really look at what you're doing because you're so focused on what everyone else is up to. You forget to celebrate your wins. You forget to even acknowledge that you have accomplished something. Whether it be a win or loss is irrelevant. You need to acknowledge that the effort, the attempt to do something is in itself a victory because yesterday you felt like you couldn't do anything. Today you made an attempt to do that thing. Tomorrow you might actually succeed at doing it. So this is a process. You're going to figure it out. It might not take a day, it might take a week, a month, a year, who knows, right? But it's a step by step process. I was literally talking to a friend of mine about this podcast, about how sometimes I do feel a little uncertain about the time and effort I'm putting into this because 100% I'm not putting in very high numbers right now, but that is fine because in my mind, if even one person takes something away from these conversations and it sparks an idea within their mind or even just helps them figure out what they would like to be doing, then I think I didn't waste my time. I definitely did something worthwhile because that's what life is, right? If we feel like we've spent X amount of time doing whatever it is we're doing, but we see even one aspect of turnaround, you feel like the return on your investment is worth it. It may not be much, but you feel like the time you invested is actually worthwhile. And truly, there's nothing really like it. I met some friends for dinner a couple of days ago, and these were like some new people that I was sitting down to eat with. And out of nowhere, one of them asked me when was my next film coming out, and I told them, "Oh, I've already released a new film a couple of days ago." They're like, "Oh, really? We didn't know." And I was like, "Yeah, it was my maternal grandfather's death anniversary, and I really wanted to put something out there to honor his memory because every year I try to do something for him. Normally, I write something for him, but I haven't really been writing for quite some time, so I thought this would be the next best thing." And yeah, so to me, it was such a different feeling having someone just ask me unprompted about my work because I was like, people actually liked my stuff, and they said so as well. They were like, they really liked my last film, which was Tosca, which I worked on right at the end of the last year. So you never really know when your work is going to connect with someone until you keep doing it. Like, as we're eating dinner, they just said, "Oh, we really, really loved your film, and it was really, really good, and you're really, really good at it." And I was like it really took me a moment just to respond. It didn't, obviously. I hope it wasn't actually like a proper moment, but in my mind and my heart, I really had to take a moment just to go like, "You like my work?" Because oftentimes when I'm just working on something, I'm often just doing it for me. I'm doing it because I want to do it. I'm doing it because I want to put something out into the world, and I want to keep telling stories. Sometimes those stories make sense, sometimes those stories don't make sense at all, but I want to keep telling those stories because maybe one day I'm going to have another situation like this one where someone I'm meeting and sitting with for one of the first proper times where I'm breaking bread with them, they're going to say, "Hey, we love your work and we can't wait for the next one." So I shared the film with them, and they seem to like that one as well. And really, it just goes to show you that, as idealistic as this sounds, if you keep pushing for what you believe, while it may not seem to make sense within that moment, you need to kind of tough it out and keep at it to see any significant results. At least that's how I see it. And clearly that's how I'm seeing the results for mine as well. But honestly, the first thing really is just fighting this thought process that so many of us have been ingrained with, that we can't take breaks, that we're wasting time if we take a break, that we're just not doing enough if we try to take a moment to take care of ourselves. Because that's not it. That's really not it. I've spoken about burnout in the past, and that is a surefire way to burn out, because if you're constantly just pushing yourself again and again and again without really taking into consideration the impact it's having on both your physical, mental, and emotional well-being, one day your body is going to make that decision for you that, hey, you didn't decide to take a break when you should have. I'm going to take the break now because there's no other choice. Time is a very finite quantity. We only have so much time on this earth. And while we absolutely should try to make the most of our time, that doesn't necessarily mean we try to maximize every single potential moment that we have, because some moments just need to breathe. Some moments just need to sit. And some moments can be really high-paced, really high action. It's about finding that beautiful balance right in the middle. It's about finding that porridge that tastes and, feels the best. It's about finding that bed that's just perfect. That happy middle ground is what we should be striving towards when it comes to making the most of the time we have on this earth. None of us know how long we have, right? There's no guarantee how long any of us are going to have. My grandfather lived till his 60s. My maternal grandfather lived to his 70s. One of my childhood best friends didn't even make it well into his late 20s. There's no guarantee for anything, really. There's no guarantee that this message that I'm trying to give will even reach you. There's no guarantee that even if you hear this, that you might take something away from it. There's no guarantee that the effort I'm putting into my art will result in something big for me down the line. But that fear of trying can't stop us from at least attempting to see where things lead. We need to at least make the effort to see if there's something worthwhile here or not. We spend so much time just thinking about the time we're wasting or the time we're losing. We don't really take a moment to appreciate all of the things that we've done to get to that specific moment where we are. That one moment of ungratefulness can really erase so much that we've done. It really requires some perspective. I don't know what you might be thinking while you're listening to this, because I know everyone has different situations where they feel like if they don't act, that they're just going to be losing on any number of things. And in certain situations, I understand that you don't have an option but to act. But I would also implore you to consider how many of those situations are self-created. Often, we as humans are our own worst critics and are our own worst opposition, because we fail to consider that at the end of the day, we are also human. A friend of mine told me something very poignant, which was that in this new year, she wants to try to treat herself the way she would treat a friend. She wants to consider herself the same way she would consider someone she cares about in her own situation. When we are bad to ourselves, when we mistreat ourselves, when we name call ourselves, when we abuse ourselves, maybe if we take a step back and consider a friend, a loved one in our position, it'll give us an understanding of just how cruel we're being. And I really love that mentality, because really, if your friend or your loved one was in the position you're in now and they needed to take a break, they needed to step back, they just needed to spend one day just in bed, just doing nothing, would you call them useless? Would you call them worthless? Would you call them any number of negative things you've probably called yourself? I'm hoping, and I should think the answer is no. If so, why is it okay to do that to yourself? Why is it not okay when something bad happens to your friend, but when something happens to you, it's fine? Rub some dirt on it and walk it off. It really requires just a moment to think about how, honestly, how funny it seems in retrospect, that how the hypocrisy of the situation can really just, it can really change the situation in a manner that it doesn't really seem fair to do it, does it? You can bully yourself as much as you want, but as soon as it comes to someone bullying your friend, you're ready to just throw fists, aren't you? If I can leave you with one thing at all, I think that's what I want to leave you with. For the next couple of days, especially if those days are difficult, try to treat yourself the same way you would treat a friend. If you're having a rough day, if you don't feel as good as you might, if you can't do the things that you should be doing, but you really, really need to or want to, just remind yourself that it's okay. You can take a step back and you can come back to it, because it's okay. Some days are harder than others, and we can't really do anything about it, because that's life. The time isn't going anywhere. I promise you, you will figure it out and you will make more time to do the things that you should be doing. Everything finds its way. So I think we're going to conclude this episode right here. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked this podcast, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you all in the next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.